Hello and welcome to Westside Wines and Spirits Virtual Wine School in West Hartford, Connecticut. I'm Monica, and today I'll be speaking with you about an Italian sparkling white wine called Prosecco, which I'm sure many of you are familiar with. But today I'd like to teach you a little bit more about this very special wine. So to begin, I think a lot of you might see this wine as a nice cheap alternative to champagne. Perhaps you've enjoyed it in a mimosa or at a celebration, but I would like to argue that it's a fantastic wine for any occasion. And the main thing to me that's worth trying about these wines is that there is more than just a bubble to it. They have a fantastic, very special and specific quality that can't be replicated in other wines. So just to begin, I'll discuss a small difference between champagne and Prosecco, which is relating to their production method, just to be a little bit technical. So to create the bubbles in these wines, they require a secondary fermentation. With champagne, this occurs in the bottle. With Prosecco, it typically occurs in large pressurized tanks. This is called the Charmat method. So the next interesting thing about Prosecco is where it's produced. Now, I go into great detail about this in my blog, but for the video I'd like to just explain that basically the Prosecco you want to look for, whether it be in our shop or anywhere else, is something that has the label DOC or DOCG. And this means that the wine has been produced in the best area possible, DOCG being a higher classification than DOC. So what makes this area so special? DOCG is comprised of actually only 15 small villages from Valdobbiadene to Conegliano, Italy. And in these villages you have very steep hillsides with very specific microclimates and very special soil that are giving the wine a characteristic that is representative of the grape Glera, which is the native grape and 85% by law of a Prosecco wine. So what are these characteristics? They often are aromatically speaking, a lot of flower and bouquet on the nose with a typical sort of pear and apple fruit, a dry and elegant flavor, and something that's absolutely very enjoyable for any occasion. Now, in case you didn't know, Prosecco actually means very dry, so we're always dealing with a dry wine here, but fortunately there are several different classifications to indicate the level of sweetness, and the most dry is called Brut, and that's going to be under 12 grams of sugar per liter. And then if you go between 12 and 17 grams, you'll find an extra dry, and the dry classification is actually the sweetest, and that's 17 to 32 grams of sugar. So today I'll actually be showing you 2 Bruts and 1 dry. So to begin, I'd like to talk about this Il Colle. This is a DOC Treviso Spumante. Now that Spumante might be a little bit confusing for some people. They might have heard it thrown around. That's actually the most common style of sparkling wine for Prosecco, in that you can also find a Frizzante or a Tranquillo Prosecco under the laws. You can do this, basically it relates to the atmospheric pressure in the wine. So the higher the atmospheric pressure, the more bubbles. So Spumante has the most bubbles, and then comes Frizzante, which is just slightly sparkling, and Tranquillo finally is still. So this is a Spumante. It's got some fantastic bubbles that will be very pleasing for any occasion. It's very dry and elegant, great aromas, and I think very, very fantastic representation of a DOC Treviso of the land. That being, you know, the hillsides are a little less steep, the microclimate's a little less unique, but again, I don't think you can find anything like this in a different style of wine outside of DOC. So I think this is a great wine to start with when you're trying out Prosecco. It's $17.99. It's a wonderful value, and I would suggest enjoying it before a meal as an aperitif or with some light fare such as roasted or grilled fish or chicken, risotto or pasta. So now moving on to our cru bottlings. I call it cru because typically these small hillsides in Val Dubbiadene, Conegliano, DOCG area are called rive, which is in dialect the term for hillside, but it really just means cru. It means the highest sort of classification, if you will, of this wine. So to begin, we have the Il Crede, which is from the producer Bizal, and it's a fantastic declared vintage that we really enjoy in here. I think it's got a nice savory rich finish, and it's just got a really fantastic light but substantial body, and to me this is a wonderful representation of DOCG. It's a brut. It's 7.5 grams of sugar per liter, so it's very, very dry. You're going to really get to taste savory, but in my opinion, fruity wine at the same time. You're getting a lot of that apple and pear and lychee fruit that I think can really only be found in the fantastic DOCG. Finally, we'll move on to the Adami bottling. This is a dry, so it's a bit sweeter. It's got between 19 and 21 grams of sugar per liter. But I think it's also worthy trying as an aperitif. Many people might choose this to have after a meal with some fresh fruit. It's got a little bit more sweetness, but it's still very well balanced. It's very elegant, and it's got some fantastic qualities to it. Again, very typical qualities representative of the terroir. This is from the Rive di Colbertaldo, so it's a specific site in a small village in the area. And I've actually had the privilege to work a couple of harvests picking grapes from that area, so I personally know how wonderful the grapes are, but also how much labor is involved in making this wine. So, you know, I can attest these wines are all fantastic. Again, full concentration of flavor, and great, great sparkling wines to be enjoyed in any occasion. And I invite you to come in and taste them. I don't think I got to tell you the price on these. This bottle, Il Crede, is $23.99 per bottle, and the final Adami Rive Giardino, Vigneto Giardino, excuse me, is $24.99. And if you buy all three together in the month of August, we'll give you a 10% discount. So if you can make it in, come in, try the wines, and we'll have a nice discussion. If you're watching this from afar, please write your comments. You can order the wine with us, and we'll ship it to you. I highly recommend giving Prosecco another chance because it's my favorite. Okay, thank you very much.